So this is the intro screen for a YouTube content creator survey. It's actually hosted through Qualtrics. So Google is a partner with Qualtrics. Thought it might be fun to kind of just take it for the first time together and talk about the options. So from the intro, no surprise, content creators on YouTube speak and read a variety of different languages. So they've actually designed this survey to function in a whole bunch of different languages. It's fantastic. Me being just an English reader and speaker, of course, we'll have to take the English version. We have a nice standard content intro screen here. 10 to 15 minute survey. It's quite lengthy. But notice that we actually disclose who the survey company is. It notes that some of the information that I have about myself that they're automatically tracking as a content creator on YouTube might be added to this. And it's just checking to verify if I agree to the agreements. So pretty good standard intro here for a lengthy survey. I'll agree to that. Let's go. Standard intro question here, just an overall simple satisfaction. So if you're a content creator, you clearly have some overall opinion here. I'll say that I'm somewhat satisfied. Follows up with an open-ended prompt. Bold move on their part to start asking open-ended questions right off the get-go. This probably makes sense for this particular type of survey because content creators on YouTube, many cases they're monetizing their work, or at the very least they're very passionate. So they probably do have something to say about this. And what would I say as a somewhat active creator? I find the new tools and upgrades both easy to use, but also a bit confusing because the interface seems to be always changing. So I'll give my answer here. Notice how they're using the piped forward to remind me of how I answered to previous questions, right? You indicate that you're somewhat satisfied. That's nice. That's a nice technique to use previous information that people have given us to make it easier for us to process the questions that we're being presented to next. So hopefully they've rotated these options. There's a long list of check all that apply here with other at the bottom. Oh, it's nice when they're asking this question, which of the following statements influence our answer for this somewhat satisfied answer, and notes don't disclose anything like my personal information. That's a good move on their part. And for me, I don't have too much to say here. I'm not someone who's trying to run a side business as a content creator on YouTube. I'm just a dude who wants to put some videos up for their students occasionally and occasionally embed funny GIFs, at least funny to me, in my videos as well. So I just say it's fun to be a creator. I have nothing else to say. Interesting here, they have other and none of the above. I'm kind of curious why there's this distinction here. That might be a little redundant. And you can see here that it carried forward my option where I said I feel YouTube makes it fun to be a creator because, so I would have to take a guess here, but I imagine that there are different sets of follow-up question and answer options depending on which of the checkboxes I select previously. In my case, I only selected the one, so I'm supposing I'll probably only be asked this one, but if I had been checking other boxes, I may have to go through a screen for each one of them. Or if they wanted to not overburden me, they may have only had me, they might only carry forward additional screens maybe 2 or 3 times. So again, I'm not quite sure which option they would have used, but worth thinking about as someone who might be designing this survey. I feel YouTube makes it fun to be a creator because, oh, I do like that. I want to reach 1,000 subscribers, which I think most of them are actually fake dummy accounts. It still made me feel quite good, so that was exciting. Ah, okay. So this is nice. I like how they phrase this. They're trying to find what still bugs me about being a content creator. It said I'm somewhat satisfied, but it said despite that, do you agree with any of the following? So these are things it presumes are common answers. Some other research or study indicates that these are problems with being a content creator on YouTube. So let's see. Being a YouTuber is too stressful. Not for me. YouTube doesn't provide me support when I have questions or issues. In many cases, these are just the negatively phrased versions of the statements earlier. It's kind of an interesting approach they used. I don't think it really cares about me as a personal creator. I'm pretty small potatoes. Oh, and there we go. YouTube as a platform changes too often. In my open-ended comments, I noted that for me being a little tiny sort of YouTube creator, I'm sure they're making all these new fancy tools, but it's a little frustrating to me. You know, the other and the none of the above. Kind of an interesting design decision here. So they're really doing a nice job of getting high-level sentiments and then drilling deeper on more specific characteristics as they go. So imagine as someone who is analyzing these results later, they could actually get quite a few um, nuanced answers to really explore what people identify as strengths and weaknesses and how they might where to sort of focus their future efforts on the YouTube platform to develop it and make it even better. Please rank the two statements you selected below in order of importance, with one being the most important. This is a poorly designed question. So what do we do here? Now, first of all, imagine in some cases there's people who have 4 to 5 statements here. For me, it's not too hard to rank sort of which one's the bigger issue and which one's the lesser issue. Is this important, most important, as in it's the most important bad issue? It's just the most important issue in general. I'm supposing it wants me to say number one is the most significant bad issue. I'm having to do some parsing of what this really is asking. So a little issue here in how this survey question is asked. And again, if I had 4 or 5 options here, kind of a general rule of thumb is people struggle with ranking a long list of things, like a list of 5 options from first to fifth. They're usually pretty good at ranking sort of the first or second most important thing. But after that, people sometimes struggle with distinguishing between sort of fourth and fifth, or fifth and sixth if there's a longer list type of options. So I tend to not be a pretty big fan of these approaches. I think a better approach is usually let people identify the things that matter to them versus things that don't. And then as a marketer, we're usually mostly just interested in the items that stand out as the most important to them. So just ask them to just from that curated list, just select the thing that matters the most. And that's, I guess, the most. And hopefully I'm answering this in the way that they intend so that the 1 and 2 is consistent with what they had behind this question. So some of the, again, some wording issues. I feel YouTube doesn't care about Music Creator because, okay, so we're doing the carry forward of the options that I had selected, and now they have sort of nuanced explanations for why I may have answered that and seeing how consistent those are. Sure. Yep. More important content creators matter more than me, and that's fine. But that is the truth, at least as far as I see it. Okay, so I explain my answer here. I'm probably just telling them the information that says, hey, don't pay attention to my concerns. I'm not important enough. What other platforms, if any, do you create content for videos, photos, live sessions, or channel? Oh, I'm on none of these things. We'll say I'm on my own website though, in the sense that I am on Canvas as an instructor, right? Or we can also say I only use YouTube. You're somewhat satisfied that YouTube is a place for video creators today. Which of the following platforms are you most satisfied with as a place for video creators? Oh, I really don't have an opinion on this. So if I have no opinion, what do I do here? Which of the following platforms are you most satisfied with? It says none of these. Well, I'm not most satisfied with any of them, so I guess that's technically correct, but it feels wrong because it's I really have no opinion. There should almost be a no opinion option here. What happens if I just click next? See, it wants an answer. Okay, I'll say none of these. I guess I could answer other as well. So here's kind of a gap between the survey response options and how someone might process this question and how they look to answer. So the standard rule of, an I don't know or no opinion as an option is usually valid. We generally think to add those, and this is a case where one of these options might have been more appropriate than saying none of these. Which gender do you most identify with? Okay, nice. So although there is definitely some issues with the sort of binary choice and just adding an other, where we're othering individuals by sort of adding this bin, but at the very least, it's at least not just a male-female dichotomy. So we do have a somewhat improved gender question here, although as we've seen in some of our literature and discussion, this is not optimal. We usually at least want to, at the very least, allow for like a non-binary explicit option as well. Identify as male. Tell us. Sure. I have nothing else to particularly say. And there we go. Okay, so I said 10 to 15 minutes. I talked my way through it, so obviously I took it quite a bit slower, but I also didn't select as many options, and other individuals who take the survey may very well. It took me about 10 minutes to complete the survey. Obviously, I would have taken quite a bit less had I not been orating my thoughts out loud as we did it. So I think that 10 to 15 minute estimate was pretty good, and it's always good to, if you have a lengthier survey like this one, good to sort of overshoot the time estimate a little bit to allow respondents to be sort of have an expectation but then not frustrate them. Okay. So pretty overall, pretty good survey, likely derive nice nuanced insights for YouTube as they try to see sort of the weak spots in their creator network in terms of perceptions and strengths. Couple problems with a few of the ways the questions were worded and options were framed. Probably not anything that would be fatal to deriving meaningful insights. And here's a look of a real world survey out there in the field today.